I'll make sure this works. Okay. July 22nd meeting of the Beavercreek Rotary Club. I want to thank a few people first. Mike Canada, where did he go? Probably getting food. Mike Canada for being a greeter. Stephen Brown, double team today, Ticketmaster and greeter. And I kind of subbed in and was able to greet some too. Jim Gundel, thank you a ton for stepping in as the secretary. I don't know, we lost like half the board. Joe, Eric, Bez, lesser half, all gone this week. So I can only say that because he's not here. Pete Bells, Mark Weinstein, Mike Swick, thank you for the program. I did see Mark out in the parking lot. I said, "Oh, you're coming in?" He was just finishing a game of golf. I said, "No, I'm leaving." So he came and played golf and then did stay for Rotary. I'm pretty sure that's a fine. You can just invoice him, Jim. And Jim, thanks for the website, by the way. So with that said, is Mr. Jarp here?
Good afternoon. Would you join me in prayer? Oh, Holy Creator, we are thankful for this day that you have given us and for its blessings, its opportunities, its challenges. May we appreciate the use of each day that comes to us. We pray for strength and guidance for each day as it comes, for each day's duties and each day's problems. May we be challenged to give our best always, and may we be assured of your presence with us. Amen. Amen.
Jim, do you have a report?
Members and 3 guests for a 50% member rate.
Okay, who's got the guests here? I know Alex.
I'd like to introduce you to my new assistant, Nicole Martin. This is her 2nd week and she hasn't quit.
Hey, Don, keep the jokes clean. Alex wants to keep his employee. Beth.
I'm Mashada Emily.
And who else got a guest? Is it? I'm assuming probably the speaker and would you like to introduce your guest?
Yeah, this is Om Rock. He is a new employee, started last Monday, and so hopefully he's going to be getting out. You'll see a lot more. You'll get to talk to him, and I thought this was a great opportunity for him to see kind of the questions and maybe a little bit of a summary of our office today. Thank you.
Oh, it was Teresa too. Okay, Sergeant at Arms. Damn, not even wow. Particularly harsh today.
That's really underwhelming. Today's Friday, July 22nd, and along with that, it's National Hammock Day. It's National, I don't know how to pronounce this, Panouche Fudge Day. That's a fudge made with butter, milk, brown sugar, and flavored with vanilla. And it's also Pie Approximation Day. It's Mango Day. It's Lions Share Day. And for some of you in here, it's National Rat Catchers Day. And for none of you in here, it's World Brain Day. Today's weather, it's going to be hot. Tomorrow's weather, it's going to be hot. Sunday's weather, it's going to be hot. So just get ready for it. Today in history, the city of Albany, New York was chartered in 1686. In 1796, Cleveland, Ohio was founded by General Moses Cleveland. In 1893, Catherine Lee Bates wrote America the Beautiful. And in 1933, Wiley Post completed the first solo flight around the world and discovered the jet stream. In 1954, the U.S. Virgin Islands adopted the Constitution, and to this day, still, the Virgin Islands have no canaries. You have to go back a couple of months to understand that one. In 1960, Cuba nationalized all the US-owned sugar factories. In 1975, the House of Representatives voted to restore the citizenship to General Robert E. Lee. And in 1997, Greg Maddux threw a complete game with just 76 pitches. I don't know if they can do that anymore. We have a couple of birthdays in the club. Dennis Evers was on July 18th and Joe Jenkins was on July 20th. We have a wedding anniversary. I don't see Paul here, but Paul Otten and his wife Julie had their 27th wedding anniversary. A couple of things in the news. If you missed it, the city of Beavercreek held a ribbon cutting for the new, or for the rebuilt Tobias Nemrick Market in Whittier Park. If you get an opportunity to go out and look at that, they did a really nice job with that. I was really impressed. And yet again, Americans have chosen chicken over burgers. Chick-fil-A was best overall in American customer satisfaction. But if you're looking for Ohio's best hamburger, you got to go to Northeast Ohio to Swenson's Drive-In. It was voted by Reader's Digest as Ohio's best burger. This I thought was kind of interesting. This 13-year-old girl, her name is Alina Annalai Wicker, is making history. She recently became the youngest Black person ever to be accepted into medical school. 13 years old. She graduated high school when she was 12 and has been selected to the UAB's Burroughs Welcome Scholars Early Assurance Program. And she's already completed half of her undergrad requirements at Arizona State and Oakwood University. One target itself would feel a little bit inadequate. The 13, that was still eating dirt. This is kind of a scary thing. The first case of polio reported in the United States in nearly a decade was detected in New York State. And so if you're looking for something to do in the next couple of weeks, July 29th through the 31st, the Annie Oakley Festival is going to be in Greenville, the Door County Fairgrounds. Centerpoint Energy Dayton Air Show is going to be here July 30th through the 31st, and the Blue Angels will be performing. And if you're a golf enthusiast, NCR Country Club is the home for this year's U.S. Women's Senior Open Championship in August. Strange but true historical events from around the world. The 1904 Olympics in St. Louis, the marathon was a total mess. The first place finisher did most of the race in a car. The guy in second place almost died from eating rat poison. And the fourth place finisher finished the race in dress pants and shoes and took a nap by the side of the road for part of the race.
Bad race director.
I thought Brandon would appreciate that one. There was a cat who started in the Nazi Navy in World War II and then became a ship's cat on the British Royal Navy and survived 3 sinking ships during his naval career. And the Polish army enlisted a bear as a soldier in World War II. Ernest Hemingway's younger brother started his own country on a raft in international waters near Jamaica and named it New Atlantis. The criteria was, it's an obscure law, the Guano Islands Act of 1856 to do this. The law stated that U.S. citizens could claim ownership under the United States of unclaimed islands that had guano deposits. It's unclear whether Hemingway involved any actual guano in the process, but he did type a constitution, just copied the U.S. Constitution in place of the United States said New Atlantis. Yes, you can do pretty much anything. At one point, the makers of Pepsi had the 6th largest military in the world. The vice president of PepsiCo attended the American exhibition in Moscow in 1959 as part of an effort to convince the Soviet Union of benefits of capitalism. Apparently, Pepsi was a big hit, but there was a problem. Soviet money was generally unaccepted worldwide. Kept it bottled up. So the USSR bought billions of dollars worth of Pepsi by trading submarines, military ships, and lots of vodka for the soda. For a brief time, they were the 6th largest until they sold it all for scrap. Cut the strange laws, I still have to do these every once in a while. If you ever find yourself driving at night through rural parts of Pennsylvania, state law requires that you stop every mile and send up a rocket signal. And you see a skittish team of horses coming toward you, you have to take your car apart piece by piece and hide it under the nearest bushes. If you're a dog owner, be sure not to violate any of the numerous laws concerning your four-legged pal. If you're planning a short stint in Hartford, Connecticut, you might want to keep your dog's obedience training under wraps. It's against the law to educate dogs in that city. Not surprisingly, many of the antiquated statutes passed in the late 1800s and early 1900s were aimed at protecting the fairer sex from unwanted attention and less than flattering reputations. For example, an old ordinance in Cleveland prohibits women from wearing patent leather shoes in public. The reason? Shiny footwear could afford a nearby gentleman an unintentional peep show. Florida still prohibits unmarried women from parachuting on Sundays. Very fine to figure that one. If you're a woman living in Michigan, you might want to check with your husband before heading to the hairstylist. According to state law, your hair belongs to your spouse, and you'll need permission before you can alter it. Some of these are pretty good. Not all old laws aimed at women are intended to preserve their virtue, however. Some apparently are designed to promote household hygiene and public safety. For example, Pittsburgh has a special cleaning ordinance on the books that bans housewives from hiding dirt under their rugs. And in Memphis, Tennessee, women cannot drive a car unless there's a man with a red flag in front of them notifying of the other traffic on the road. One easily conclude that some of these silly laws were simply designed to get a laugh, which apparently we have. How else can you explain the following Texas law? When two railroad trains meet at a crossing, each shall stop and neither shall proceed until the other has passed. Sounds like something we read, doesn't it? A drunk was brought before a judge in Fairborn. The judge said, "You've been brought here for drinking." The drunk says, "Great, let's get started." It's my wife's birthday tomorrow. She's been leaving jewelry catalogs all over the house, so I got her a magazine rack. And you know, being a man's not easy. No makeup, no wig. If you're ugly, you're just ugly. But Lexi is such an ugly word. I prefer the term selective participation. They say, do what you love and money will follow. So I ate cheesecake and drank some bourbon, and now I wait. And this is actually true. My grandmother did say something like this. She used to say, when you spank the child on the butt, you just are moving his brains back up where they need to go. If two people love each other, nothing is impossible, unless you're deciding where to eat. I told my wife I wanted to be cremated. She made an appointment for next Tuesday. Oh, I ate a kid's meal at McDonald's the other morning. That mother was really upset with me. An old Indian asked the name of his wife. He said, 3 horses. So that's an unusual name for your wife. 3 horses, what does it mean? It's an old Indian name. Nag, nag, nag. Cool. If women ever sit back and think, my man sure does know a lot. Maybe I should be quiet and listen to him. Obviously not. Having kids makes you realize how dumb your lies sounded to your parents. I'm going to speak with his pastor about an issue he was having. Father, all day long I hear voices telling me what to do. Am I possessed by the devil? No, son, you're married. I'm thinking of getting a bumper sticker that says, honk if you think I'm sexy. Then I'm going to sit at a green light till I feel better about myself. And one supper, Farmer Brown knocked on Farmer Jones's door. Farmer Brown said, I know we don't talk often, but I wanted to let you know that our mule just died today. Farmer Jones said, I'm certainly sorry to hear that, but I was wondering, why would you come over here and tell me that? Because Farmer Brown said, you're always supposed to notify the next of kin. And as always, I like to leave you with a couple of quotes. Life is like a coin. You can spend it any way you wish, but you can only spend it once. And as Mark Twain said, the two most important days in your life are the day you're born and the day you find out why. Today's clients, if you've got a hammock, that's $1. If you have run a marathon, that's $1. If you've been to Chick-fil-A in the last week, that's $1. Sure. If you're not wearing your Rotary pin, that's $1. Now I give it back to Brandon for happy bucks.
Some of those were particularly terrible, so I feel like Dave Fleming is smiling right now. I look down and smile. Okay, happy bucks. Not all at once.
I'll give a happy buck. My 9-year-old son played select ball baseball this year. The season wrapped up, and he got nominated to be on the 9-year-old state team.
Steve.
One, I'm going to the Dayton Dragons game tonight with my dad, so excited about that. And tomorrow I'm going with about 24 people to the Luke Combs concert at Buckeye Stadium. So looking forward to it.
Sir, my 26-year-old son closed on a house on the 19th, and hopefully we'll be moving out of mine.
Who else? I've got one. I posted on Facebook for those who saw that, but on Monday I start my new job. I'm going to be looking at Antioch College as a major gifts officer, which is a fancy way of saying I'm going to shake down people for their money. So very excited about that. And then where's Shannon Graham? He was here. Well, he's happy about something, I'm sure of it. So one for him.
Yeah, actually, I'll be for happy credit. All great children. Huge thanks to Mike and Nick. They did an amazing job. It's always amazing how many sponsors we have for our outing. So seriously, huge thank you to you guys.
That was on my sheet. You still have that there. So big thanks to seriously though, Mike Wicked McLundy for doing that for all the Rotary. I know a lot of y'all played, a lot of y'all supported Mick and Mike, a lot of y'all donated, a lot of y'all recruited friends to come out and play. It was a great turnout, it was great weather. Some people, leaned on their companies to provide food. So everyone pitched in, and Mike told me a number. We got to run it through Eric, who's on vacation, but it was a great success for our club. So thank you to everyone who pitched in. Take a drawing. So let's see. The number is 117-030. It's totally me. What is that on? We got 117-030. That's first here. Well, we can come back. Well, he's gonna go look for it, but we can come back to that. Yeah, keep your tickets. We'll play at the end. We'll verify if Shannon Graham doesn't get back in here. Don, what's Don?
It's Shannon.
It's Shannon Graham. Wow, another fine. I'm just gonna start issuing fines like crazy.
Somebody will win now.
Strategic pause here.
Everyone.
Go.
Sorry about that. All right, here, wake up.
Find a better, wake him up.
Take on a phone call.
What gross?
Operas. Shannon, do you have any handbooks?
Happy bucks. Oh, yeah, so, the Popcorn Festival's coming up. You guys might know that or heard of it already. I finally got an underground utility contractor that's gonna be able to push in some wire for me, and that's kind of a huge load off my back, because I'm pulling like 1,500 feet of cable this year.
Wow. There we go. We're thankers. I saw our newest member here. We won't find her for being late. Well, yes, it is you. Joanne Garcia's stuck into the room, so sorry to throw you under the bus there. Okay, with that, Mr. Michael Glick, who's going to introduce our guest speaker.
Thank you, sir. It is my pleasure to introduce David Graham, our Greene County Auditor. He was elected in November of 2010 and began serving March 14, 2011. Before that, he was in the office and a chief deputy auditor for 10 years. So you went to work when you were 10 years old? David is a lifelong resident of Xenia, attended the Wright State University, and graduated with a dual major in accounting and finance. He resides in Xenia with his wife, Lisa, with whom he has 4 children. Did you write this? It's a little hard. It's a little hard to read.
I'm an accountant. What do you want? Methods of credits.
Do you know how to tell when an accountant is outgoing? He looks at your shoes, not his.
All right, so range of subjects I gave. The one I really wanted to talk about was the death of youth sports in America, but Mike said you probably aren't an expert, so why don't you talk about your office instead? So we're going to talk a little bit about what the auditor's office does. We have a wide variety of duties. My favorite of all of our duties are selling dog tags. It's a tax to own a dog. You pay $20 for this little metal tag, and it's the only tax I know people actually think that little tag's worth $20. And so they're happy to buy it. And that's the only tax I know of that, of course, when we deal with the real estate tax, which we'll get to, people are a lot less happy. We also sell cigarette license, vendor's license, and junkyard licenses. Up till 5 years ago, we sold circus licenses, other than no living county auditor had ever sold a circus license. So we really weren't sure what we were supposed to do. So we kind of eliminated that one from the statute. That's kind of the front office operations there. So one of the more important jobs is I'm the chief fiscal officer for the county. As chief fiscal officer, there's $1.8 billion combined revenue and expenses that come through the county coffers in a given year. That's a huge responsibility, one that I don't take on alone. The county treasurer is in essence the bank for the county, so that the books of the county are separate from the actual cash of the county. Probably the only place you would ever see that done is in a government that was created in the 1800s, because most of our jobs were part-time jobs. And by separating those two, you create a segregation of duties that is very important when you talk about government and its operations. As part of being a fiscal officer, my staff audits every voucher before it's paid, making sure that it's for a proper public purpose, it's being charged to the correct counts and the correct funds, and that it's mathematically accurate. We also ensure compliance with the budgetary laws, in that you can't spend more than what you plan to spend. You can't plan to spend more than what you plan to have available. And so a number of these laws where we monitor the activities of the county. And then we also prepare an annual financial report, nearly 200 pages of mind-numbing words and numbers. If you have insomnia, I brought a copy for you. So also the county auditor is the payroll officer for the county. Currently we have just over 1,000 employees. Probably normally we're in that 950 range, but with all the summer help that you get during this time of the year, we're up over that 1,000 mark. Just ensure people are paid accurately and that all of their withholdings are reported properly. And the IRS is just such a joy to work with. So we also certify all weighing and measuring devices used in commercial production. So whether you're at a laundromat, you're supposed to get 10 minutes of dryer time, we have to measure that you're getting 10 minutes of dryer time. Obviously, everybody's seen the seals at the gas pumps, all of your deli scales, the checkout scales, those are all certified by my office. I have one weights and measures inspector who does that. And so he it has been certified. We've got another one who's going to be starting here shortly. We're also responsible for price verification. Now, I'll be quite honest, Montgomery County has 6 inspectors at any given time. We have 1. So we don't do a whole lot on price verification. And every 4 years or so, Dayton Daily News runs an article saying what a great job Montgomery County does on price verification and how Miami County, Clark County, and Greene County are lagging. I always look at price verification personally as you bought it, you see it, you can monitor it. You don't need me to do that for you and to hire extra staff just to monitor that people, what this says on the shelf is what you are being charged at the checkout. It is something that you have the ability to monitor yourself. Whereas if you're getting shorted on your gas, you have no way of measuring that. So I try to focus on those areas where I think the greater risk is. Of course, my favorite role, I'm the chief appraiser of real property for ad valorem tax purposes. That's important. It is for tax purposes only. You can sell your house for whatever somebody is willing to pay for it. My value is based on a mass appraisal approach. It's more of a statistical model to valuing property. So when somebody says, well, this house sold for $350 and you've got it appraised for $250 in this market right now, especially, a month or 2 ago, that was not unusual. We only update property values every 3 years. Every 6 years, we do a reappraisal, which involves us actually viewing the property, doing a condition assessment on the property, and looking at that neighborhood. Now, it used to be people would say, oh, you guys don't do real appraisals, you do drive-by appraisals. With technology now, we don't even drive by half the time. We take aerial photographs. We've got, we can see your property from all of its angles. It's a great savings putting boots on the ground. Right now, my contract with Tyler Technologies to complete our reappraisal is right around $1 million. That's using technology. Imagine what the cost would be if we had to put boots on the ground to go knock on every door. And quite honestly, most people work the same hours my appraisers work. And most of you don't want us trouncing through your house. So, we have to make assumptions about the interior conditions. So again, our appraisal is completely different than what you would see in a fee appraisal. And as a price break, remember there's about 76,000 parcels in Greene County. I'm paying roughly $15 per parcel to get those appraised. The cheapest appraisal I have ever seen was $250. So there is a difference. It's not a perfect system. And we're going to kind of talk about what you can do when that system doesn't work for you. The other thing I'll remember is my appraisal is measuring the past. It's not trying to predict the future. So out in the Clifton area, when the solar farm was going to come in, There were a lot of people saying, well, you got to lower my value. This solar farm is going to kill my property value. It's not my job to predict what that's going to do. Once it's there, we measure what happened. We don't try to say, hey, this is going to be the up and coming area. We need to put more value there. We wait until we see those sales. And speaking of sales, so our next valuation update will be in tax year 23, pay 24. So in 24, everybody be prepared to have about a 25% increase in your property valuation. That is a conservative number. If you're in an area like Beavercreek, it could be more. So, I mean, everybody knows what the sales are out there. You read it in the paper all the time. You look, I mean, I'm amazed at what some of these properties are selling for. You know, and so we will look at all the sales that occur through December 31st of 22 to arrive at our value as of January 1st, 23, that will impact your 24 taxes. We've already talked a little bit about the difference between mass appraisal and fee appraisal, but one of the things when about 10 years ago, when I first became auditor, Zillow was out there, and Zillow was giving people bad information about their property value, because what it was doing is it was letting the person pick which comps they wanted to use. And so, but now Zillow is a great tool for us because they have pictures of the interior of these properties that have sold. So now if a property sold, I don't need to be able to get inside the house. I just need to go out to Zillow, look at those pictures and say, hey, wait a minute. Last time we asked them, they said they didn't have a finished basement. Now they have a finished basement. Look, there's nice pictures of it. So we are picking up a lot of information that way. But we're still limited. We send out data mailers every 6 years asking people to update their information. People lie to me. I have a buddy of mine. Who probably 3 times a year I'd go to his house. We'd go to his unfinished basement and play poker. Just a group of guys, nice evening. And about 5 years ago, he quit inviting me. My assumption is he has finished his basement. Are we sure? I'm not sure, so therefore I didn't put it on, but it keeps me from getting invited to go to a lot of things. As long as my mom still invites me over, that's important. So I'm also the tax assessor. That means I calculate the tax bills. So that involves calculating tax rates, actually doing the mathematical calculations and managing all the tax credits, the owner occupancy credit, non-business credit, and homestead credits. I always encourage people that look at your tax bill, make sure you are receiving the credits that you're entitled to. If you have a question, contact my office. We will walk you through it. We will make sure you're getting the breaks that you deserve. And these are the only 3 tax reduction programs in the state of Ohio. But especially if you qualify for homestead, that's one that will save you a considerable amount of money. As the county auditor, I'm secretary of the Tax Incentive Review Council. So this group, yeah, it's an exciting meeting. So during this meeting, we review all of the tax abatements that have been granted by our local government entities to determine if they are meeting their projected goals. So if you have, we'll use the Pepsi plant there in Fairborn, that, when they built that plant, it was based on, hey, you're going to create X number of jobs that will create Y amount of payroll, and you'll have to invest X dollars in order to qualify. So we make sure they retain that employment numbers that they have promised through that agreement. So again, we just make recommendations to the council that approved the abatement. But and I also learned the word secretary in Ohio Revised Code means the person who does all the work. I need to get a secretary in my office. It's kind of my point there, I guess. So we also maintain all the information on property ownership. So who we say owns a property is what our documents say. Again, that doesn't mean that if you have a deed and you never brought it and presented it to be transferred, you may still own the property. We just don't have record of that ownership. So, and the transfer process involves 3 offices. The county engineer approves all legal descriptions. The county auditor transfers the property, and then the recorder retains the documentation. Again, showing segregation of duties. Now, the engineer portion is because they have the technical expertise as a surveyor, but the recorder and the auditor have that segregation that I maintain the ownership records, but the documents are retained in a separate office to make sure that I'm not giving property to my family that goes unclaimed. There has to be that legal document that says that. I'm secretary of the Board of Revision. So if you are unhappy with your property value, not your property taxes, make clear, if you think your property is overappraised, every year you have a right to file a complaint against the value of your property. That process is from January 1st to March 31st each year, where you have the ability to contest your property value, come to before the Board of Revision, provide your evidence. And I'm going to say, we do need evidence. You can't, I've had people who say, during the recession, well, right here's an article in Dayton Daily News that says property values are down 15%. Okay, well, first of all, you don't live in Dayton, so but honestly, you can look around your neighborhood using data that's available on our website to see what sales are. And by looking at that data, you can say, hey, maybe the auditor does have my property overappraised. Like I said, we use a statistical model to determine your property value. Your property may not be standard for that neighborhood. You might have built in a 1960s neighborhood and built a brand new house. That's a tough one for us to appraise because there's no comparables in that neighborhood for a house that's that age. If we're going to miss, it's going to usually be on issues like that. So I encourage people to take advantage of that process. If you have questions, I'm happy to sit down with any taxpayer and go through how we arrived at the value, what the area is. And if I feel you're right, I'll help you fill out. So also secretary of the Budget Commission, the Budget Commission is responsible for reviewing the tax budgets of all of the subdivisions in the county that have property tax levies. So in doing that, we determine, is there a need for that levy? So we had one subdivision several years ago contracted with another subdivision to provide the fire service. So that's a contract. And this subdivision had 120% of their contract amount sitting in cash. The Budget Commission reduced their tax rate because it was unnecessary to tax the people for that year. So the Budget Commission has that authority to reduce tax rates. And matter of fact, this is tax budget season. They were due on the 20th. And so I have a bunch of paperwork sitting on my desk. One of the things, I talk to a lot of different groups, but I always say everybody complains about government. We're inefficient, we're difficult to get a hold of. I really don't believe that to be true. I think, at least at our county level, we have a great group of elected officials that are willing to sit and talk with you about process. I can't make you happy. I always joke, I'm the county auditor. I'm the fiscal officer for the county who tells people, you can't spend that, it's illegal. I'm the tax assessor. There's no part of my job that makes people happy other than dog tags. And so I tell my wife, I said, I'm just not in the happiness business. And she just looks at me and says, well, David, they could not have found a better person for the job. So, but government, like I said, is based on checks and balances. We will always sacrifice accountability for efficiency. And that makes it really tough to do our job. Several years ago, there was a blue ribbon task force that was going to come in and recreate government. We're going to make you guys operate like a business. And then they realized the Ohio law, the state legislators create the rules that we have to operate under. And so they had a lot of great suggestions, but we're pointing to Ohio statutes and saying, yeah, we can't do that. See this right here? It says we must. And so it does make it hard, but I do believe in open government. Kind of go through some of the things I've done in my 10, or I shouldn't say my staff has done over the 10 or 11 years I've been auditor. First thing we did was anything the public used to need to do was on the second floor. If you wanted to buy a dog tag, you wanted to file a homestead form, you wanted to do any of this stuff, you had to come to the second floor. The most unpopular decision I've made so far was moving the second floor public section to the first floor. You want to upset employees, tell somebody who's been sitting at the same desk for 20 years that, hey, we're moving your desk downstairs. But again, that was a decision I made just based on the fact I've never gone to a bank and had to go to the second floor to see a teller. We've implemented a new accounting system and a new payroll system that has allowed us to decentralize all of our processing. Now department heads are making purchase requisitions and payment requests through the system by attaching documents. It's been a great time saver. We've installed new real estate software. We've installed a county-wide time and attendance system. Instead of having people fill out papers and then us have to read data enter those papers, stuff the private industry has been doing for a while now, it captures that information electronically, and then we can just import it into our payroll system. We've got a new dog tag system allowing for online dog tags, which I know was an issue for Mr. Gould at some point. And then we continue to update our website with information that I hope you find useful. But I always encourage you, give me feedback. I'm a government insider. I'm what everybody hates. I'm a bureaucrat. But you guys have the ideas. You know what you want to see. I have people who have expertise because I can't program anything. But if there's information you want to see, we can probably get it for you. And so the other, probably one of the biggest things is when I came into office, we had 21 employees. As of last week, we were down to 11. Now I am hiring 4 new people. So this is, but this technology that we've implemented, which I've been able to do, not only because I have a great staff, but I also have the support of the commissioners and other elected officials. And so we have been able to make investments that have allowed us to reduce our staff sizes. Still have some things left to accomplish. One is hiring more staff. Implement a new time and attendance system, because sometimes when you buy things based on price, you got what you paid for. So we are looking for a new time and attendance system, just because the one that we purchased 5-6 years ago is end of life. And honestly, the company is not that great on the support side. So there's a county employee for you. So we're also looking to streamline our receipting process, which obviously doesn't really impact you guys. But again, we'll create efficiencies within our office, less people touching paper. And then we're going to implement a new capital asset management system in our county. Hopefully we'll start that project yet this year. Are there any questions? Yes, Brian.
Said that property valuations might go up 25+%. Can you give an approximation of how much that will cause property taxes to go up in that same period?
No, you really can't. So for years, you would have heard me say, well, just because your value is going to go up doesn't mean your taxes go up the same percentage. And that's still true. Okay. But it's going to hit a lot harder now. So there's a thing called the 20 mil floor, and you know, I can do a tax rate presentation, but I'm going to tell you, tax rate presentation takes me an hour to get through, and that's if I'm flying. But the 20 mil floor, so now about half of the millage that you pay is going to be directly tied to a change in your property value. So and I don't know, how deep do you want me to get into this answer, Brian? You and I have had this conversation.
Your 1 minute version.
Okay, so the 1 minute version is on a voted levy. If values go up because of reappraisal change, what happens is that effective tax rate is reduced so that it generates the same amount of money it did in the prior year. The exception to this rule is inside millage, which is 10 mils of your total millage that you pay. If you're in Beavercreek, you're probably paying close to 80 effective mils. So, you know, that's not a large percentage. But then when you add the school district's 20 mil floor into that, now that's a much larger percentage. So where in the last several years, when we hit the recession in 2008, what we saw was all the school districts were going above the 20 mil floor. So when property values were going back up after that recession, those tax rates were reducing. Well, those school districts are at the 20 mil floor now. So those levies cannot be reduced below that floor, meaning they're going to act like inside millage and directly correlated to your change in value. Your fire levies for the township are going to continue to be reduced. They have no floor. The police levies or street levies for the city have no floor. It's the school district, the 20 mil floor for the schools, and then the 2 mil floor for the career center. Any other questions? Yes.
First of all, David, thank you for your service. You're always very accessible. And I appreciate it whenever we have to call your office and you're always willing to give us an answer.
Are they usually right though?
Usually. Okay. I appreciated the ability to buy an online lifetime dog tag. Very interested again. That saved me from going over there every year.
I can tell you a good story of current state auditor Faber and then Senate President Faber and I having a long discussion about lifetime dog tags. They said, what are you going to do when we start getting dogs that are 30 years old in our county? You know, hey, wait a minute, I got this lifetime tag. I'm just going to put it on my new dog.
Yeah, and I use that every day probably in my work. And so I think it's really easy to go on and look at properties and take a look at the tax rates and everything else. So thank you for maintaining that system.
Absolutely. And I don't know, you know, if I have time, one of the things I was kind of contemplating was displaying some of the stuff that we have on our website that we put out there. I know we have a lot of business owners, managers, government officials, and every one of you guys I know will say it's important to hire smart people. And I have a great IT staff and GIS staff that are able to produce some amazing things that I think help the taxpayers. Unfortunately, I don't know how to get the information out to the taxpayers. And everybody keeps saying, well, use social media. And I'm like, yeah, I don't even have a personal social media page. Any social media I need, my wife shows me on her phone. Oh, look at your grandkids. Aren't they cute? So, but yeah, do we have time that I can just, oh, go ahead.
I was just curious, how does your calibration fellow calibrate the gas pumps? Does he come out with a gallon can and fill it? And
a 5-gallon can, right?
5-gallon can. Okay.
Yeah. He is.
Yeah, here's what to do with a 5-gallon.
Of course, back into, so it just goes and opens where they put the gas in and then pours it back.
So he does every pump.
It does every pump, test every grade on each pump.
Oh.
So, and right now there's legislation that's out there that would have auditors do fuel quality testing. I don't think that legislation is really going to go anywhere, but it is an issue that has come up. Like I said, I've been around the auditor's office now for over 20 years, and it probably comes up every 4 years that somebody says, hey, we should be doing, we're one of 3 states that don't do fuel quality testing. I personally don't like the idea because if I test the quality of the fuel, I have to send it off to a lab. Obviously, I don't have the skills necessary to determine if it's the proper octane or if it's free of sediment. And then by the time I get the results back from the lab, that gas is already gone. They've had a new delivery. So it's one of those, to me, it's a solution looking for a problem and not the other way around. Yes, ma'am.
Houses seem to be selling above premium, like a super premium. So when you guys do your evaluation here, you're taking these values that have been probably overly inflated. Where you, I just know several individuals lately you bought houses probably $30,000 more than what you pretty valuable. I'm just wondering, what value are you gonna use?
So what we do is we would come in and say, okay, if for a triennial update, it's a little different. Triennial update purely a statistical model. We don't come out and look at the condition of the house or whether the neighborhood is deteriorating or anything like that. But so what we would do is we define neighborhood areas, and we would say if properties are selling for 30% more than what I have them appraised for, then I need to increase this neighborhood 25%. But again, don't go to the full 100%, because if I go to 100%, and I have just as many houses overappraised as underappraised. People who are overappraised yell at me. So in order to keep myself from getting yelled at, I shoot for 95. Plus, it's a statistical model for valuing properties. So hitting 100% in any model, any good model, 5% is 2 standard deviations from the perfect mark. So yes, people are going to see. I mean, I grew up in the States in Xenia. Anybody knows that? Those are houses that in the last reappraisal were probably appraised for between $85,000 and $110,000 based on square footage and all that good stuff. My son, when he was looking for houses, they were listed for 160 and selling for 180. And I'm still sitting here with a value of 100,000 on it. So yeah, there's going to be significant value increases. And I just, it's one of those, I have a statutory duty. I've sworn an oath, and it's an oath I take seriously. And I know it's going to be a tough pill to swallow, but it is what the value is. I will say that's the benefit of Zillow, though, is because a lot of these houses they're selling for the premiums have been completely redone. They put new HVAC in, they put wood floors, new countertops. They've done a lot of improvements to where I don't have to increase every property by that same amount, because that property I had an average condition. Now I'm looking at pictures and going, no, this isn't average for this neighborhood. It's much better than average. So, that's kind of what we're trying to do to fight some of this increase you're going to see, but it's still, this market is amazing. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Gas stations, scammers, is that something you guys audit catch, or is that the gas station that's catching?
Well, your hope is that the gas stations are catching it, but and I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to promote any certain gas station, but your large operations have this under control. I'll use Kroger as an example. If somebody breaks in to the innards of their tank or of their pump, it shuts down. And the only way it can be restarted is if the manager has the key to restart it. So there are a lot of places like that on that level that have really taken the skimmer issue seriously. Where you still are going to run into problems are the independent gas stations. And quite honestly, we don't hear much at all about skimmers now. It's one that I think in the past year, we've had one skimmer in Ohio that has made the news anyways, and that was up in Northeast Ohio. Any other questions? Okay, so, I know I'm probably running short on time, but I do encourage people, go to Greene County, just type in any search engine, Greene County, Ohio, and then in the middle of the screen, you'll see where it says Greene Online Tools. Go to that. We have tax estimators, so on levies that are going to be on the November ballot. They're not out there yet because they all haven't been certified, but we will tell you exactly what it will cost you on your property, not based on $100,000, which means if you're receiving homestead, our calculation will take into consideration all of those factors. Just a wealth of information. Our GIS system, you can bring in sales so you can see what sales are in your neighborhood. Again, I have very talented staff who is able to give you a lot of tools that I encourage you to use. And if you ever have a question, or you have a different civic group you belong to, and you want a specific presentation on, can you show me what you can do on your website? By all means, I will be happy to go talk to any group. So I thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Okay.
Oh, did anybody want
Sorry for that. We dedicate a book for every speaker. This book is topical. Apparently, it's Shark Week.
Shark Week, nothing to do with David.
So, and I remember they used to be a big thing, Discovery Channel Shark Week. So it's sharks and other deadly creatures. And other deadly ocean creatures. That just gets me excited to not the ocean. We'll have you sign this, and we'll be donating that to the Beavercreek. Is it the Beavercreek Library?
Beavercreek Library.
Okay, Beavercreek Library. Sorry.
Light on the honor.
One thing about this talk for those who are Air Force veterans, depending on your age, it changes names because they call it Force Support Squadron now or Air Force Services. And they're kind of like the redheaded stepchild of the Air Force. They're like, oh, what do we do with this thing? And we're like, oh, give it to services, like, mortuary affairs, the mail, just honor guard. It just gets dumped into services. That's what I felt like was his talk. Like, look, raise the scale. So I give that to the auditor. The dog tags honor. Like, you just
Other duties as assigned.
duties as assigned. Thank you for what you do. Definitely not glamorous, but very important work. So thank you. Last thing was I got an email yesterday from Rotary, and I just got a tweet notification. I don't know how Twitter pushes me random tweets, even though I don't even use the platform, but it was the first confirmed polio case in the US in 9 years. Gentleman was unvaccinated. He's paralyzed now. We all know what Rotary stands for in the fight against polio, and it shows you vaccines work. So Rotary put out an ask for donations as we continue to fight polio worldwide. And so it's still here, it's still around. So keep that in mind. So, sir, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Anybody have anything to do in the club?
Everybody have a good opinion.